Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. We do projects, training, consulting, things. Check us out. Welcome. It's Monday, June 20th, 2022, and this is episode 18 of our Think Out Loud series, which we do. I don't know, looks good to me. All right. Well, anyway, let me know if the stream seems to be blippy or suffering, and I will try to, I don't know what, hope. Thoughts and prayers. And of course, as always, I want to thank everybody in the low ego action hero community, especially people who are have pressed the join button on YouTube and are donating to the channel financially, which is absolutely optional but always appreciated. And these people are giving $3 to $10 American per month, but again, in exchange, they get emojis. I don't want anybody to miss out on anything. Janice says a bit of lag, but fine now. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my internet. I'm gonna have to ask my lovely boyfriend to please call and complain. Because I don't think my Italian is good enough to complain to customer support just yet. Alrighty, so let's talk about the project we've been working on. We started it 2 weeks ago in episode 17. If you haven't seen that before, you may want to go back and watch it. Hello, Jurgen. See, he's flexing his special emoji. I'm also eating a Ricola, not sponsored. And so someone sent in the website that people who want to become Florida lawyers have to use in order to prepare for the Florida bar exam. It was a website from another era, and it was quite a mess. And they wanted to see both research and design. Before we get to the design, we are still talking about the research. So last week, we took a look at the bar exam website. We got to know it a little bit. We asked ourselves some critical thinking questions about it and who the users might be. And we started working on what might a generative research plan look like if we were going to do some sort of generative or exploratory research as if the Florida bar were our client. I then asked the question, how far into this research planning do you want to go? And the people viewing at the time said, oh, go in deep. So we're going to go in a little bit deeper, but I hope everybody joining today will help out and be part of this. So let me get my Axure file up and let me share the screen. Please hold. I think I can press this button. Is it working today? Yep. Okay. So here's me, the optional tip jar, the chat room, at least how I see it. And over here, my screen. So I'm not seeing the overlay and I'm not seeing my own system when it's blipping. You know what? If I pull my screen down maybe a little bit, I'll be able to see if I'm getting a blip. There we go. Now I'll see it. I hope that's not distracting, but as long as this is red where it says stream 1, we have a good connection. If it turns yellow, you're probably seeing blipping. So I'll try to keep an eye on that. Okay, if you want to check out the Axure file, you can find it at 7, letter I, number 8, letter S as in Sierra, letter H as in hotel, letter N as in Nancy, .axshare, A-X. All right. Hopefully my video gets jagged, but hopefully the audio stays. I think that's what vMix usually tries to do. Maybe you can confirm that. So, damn, we pay for this and everything. Okay, so what we determined last time was as we were building our study and asking ourselves critical thinking questions about what we wanted to learn to help the Florida Bar website improve, to help better serve the community of people trying to become attorneys in Florida, to help them better prepare for it, because I can flip over to what that website looks like now. For those of you who don't remember, it looked like this. And as you can see, that's not user-friendly. And there were obviously a lot of problems with this and a lot of stuff you needed to prepare before you could even take the test. Oh, I was trying to check this too. YouTube stopped for 30 seconds twice. Do you lose the sound with it? Oh, the audio stops also. Rah, 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 rah. All right, so seems better now. Okay, yeah, I don't know. If it does it again, I'll switch to my backup internet, but I cannot promise my backup internet is better. Oh, hi, Pier Mario. How are you? Hey, Pier Mario, can you please call Tim? Because my internet has been a mess. This is the third streaming show where it's the Tim internet has bottomed out. That would really be great. So, Pier Mario, everybody, my boyfriend, hopefully he will skip this show and please just call Tim and tell them our internet is a mess and, you know, tell them it's dying. Sure, I'm on it. Thanks, honey. Love you. See you later. Okay, so again, to go over this for people last time, and I'm just going to flip some windows around so I could try to keep an eye on the stream. Pier Mario, our savior. Yes, our Lord and Savior, Pier Mario. We ended up deciding we probably have 3 research studies here. And I know that's a little bit mind-boggling, like, do we really have to do that much work? 5 more minutes, Mom. But I think it's important for us, if we're going to do generative and exploratory research well, we should do it well. Certainly we could do less than well, but let's imagine that we get the opportunity to do this well. So we decided that we would actually build 3 different studies. And where we left off last week was we hadn't written any of the questions yet. But just to catch people up from last week, and again, if you saw last week, just fast forward a little bit. We decided we would do 3 studies. One would be a diary study with around 24 people who are just starting this preparation process to apply to take the bar exam. And we picked a diary study because it's not really the kind of thing that you can do you know, in a half-hour interview or a 1-hour session. It's the kind of thing where we're going to have to follow people over time, because if you saw it last week, you saw things like, in order to apply to take the bar exam, they have to get 5 letters of recommendation and their military records and their arrest records. Like, it sounds like you spend weeks, if not months, digging up records on yourself and tracking down paperwork. So you can't just get somebody in a video session and go, hey, share your screen and show me how you do it. You're going to have to follow them over time, so we selected the diary study method for that. If you're not familiar with a diary study, we don't have a video on it at this time. As of June 2022, we might in the future, but it's totally Googleable. Just look up UX diary study. Hopefully somebody will tell you something about it, because I haven't. Tim, fix your internet. Yeah, Udip, it's not a guy named Tim. It's the company is called Tim. What does it stand for, Pier Mario? I can't remember. It's like Telephone Italy something. You know, it's like that kind of thing. For a second study, we wanted to do in-depth interviews, 30 minutes each, with new lawyers who already passed the bar. So people who made it through this terrible process and have some hindsight on where did it go right and where did it go wrong, what advice would they give to people starting that process now. So kind of almost like our expert users, people who made it through, and we looked at both new lawyers who've already gone through that process and passed the bar, and maybe some law professors who tend to advise people on these things. So we figured, let's see what they advise people going through this terrible process. And then our third study would be stakeholders at the Florida bar. Maybe to have a 60-minute, excuse me, contextual inquiry with them. And again, contextual inquiry is totally Googleable if it's a term you're not familiar with. But basically, it's observational research with questions. And so we realized when we were talking about this 2 weeks ago that Sure, somebody's got to get all of these forms and documents and papers and records all together, and then they've got to give them to someone at the Florida Bar Authority, whoever they are. Someone's now got to deal with that paperwork. Well, what do they do? How do they review that paperwork? How do they know it's authentic? Maybe they won't tell us that, but we can try. So that question, that line of questioning, which we haven't written yet, would really help us determine how can we create a system that also helps the internal users at our client. Very often in UX, we think about, oh, the user, it's this person who wants to become a lawyer. They have to use this crappy website. Yes, but there are sometimes other sets of users or secondary users who we have to think about as well. I don't want to build a site that's great for the future lawyers and is awful for the people who have to collect that paperwork and deal with it. Can we solve both things at the same time in our fake project, where we make it easier for people to prepare for this and get all that paperwork, easier for them to upload it and keep track of their progress, and easier for the people who deal with that paperwork to deal with that paperwork? So I said 2 lead researchers and 3 assistants. You know, looking at this again, I think we probably need even more people. Let's say we put, gosh, I mean, look, let's pretend we're going big. I'm going to put a lead and 2 assistants on each of these. I want to make sure we have lots of human power and it's not one person burning out. So again, let's pretend the budget is endless. Maybe the state of Florida will sell some bonds to pay for this, and we will just make sure that this is done really well. We also estimated some time. So again, I don't want to completely go over last week's show. You can always see that. But we took a look at some timing. We took a look at the profiles. Who would we want to recruit from each of the 3 studies? We talked about numbers. We talked about genders. And especially because we're dealing with paperwork, I thought it was very important to include people who are non-binary or other genders or transgender, because those are people who traditionally have a lot of problems with their paperwork and those types of legal issues. So we don't want to just look at men and women who've had it easy because this has always been my name or this has always been my gender. Let's make sure we're looking at all the people. How did we come up with that? Critical thinking. There was nothing in the original project that said, don't forget trans people. But if we care about communities that we're a part of and communities that we're not a part of, that we want to be allies to, and if we want to claim empathy, then we really have to be thinking about these people, and we have to think ahead. We have to say, who tends to have a lot of problems with legal paperwork and documentation and things that say their names on it? Hey, that jumps right up and bites me in the face. That's going to be various people from your LGBTQIA plus community. So there. So that's what we went through last week, and then we started writing down some of the goals for the different research. And then we were going to try to come up with some questions that we wanted to ask these people. Now, of course, the diary study is a little different. Usually for a diary study, you have an interview at the beginning of the study, an interview at the end of the study. So after these people have finished amassing all of their paperwork and completing everything that prepares them to take the exam, because that's kind of our customer journey here. It kind of ends when they're approved to take the exam. So you have a beginning interview and an end interview, and then in between you're just asking them to diary what they do related to this issue every day or multiple times a day. This sounds like it could be a full-time job for someone. So I think today we want to think about some more of our research goals, especially because we did not do research goals for the third group. And I'll just put a placeholder thing there. And but yeah, let's work on it together. You can yell stuff out. And so let's think about our goals so far. What do we want to learn from the people who are going to have to go through this mess? What is their process and approach when preparing for this exam? And again, it's not the studying for the exam part. It's all the stuff. Let's flip back over here. These were all the pieces of, you can see this, informational materials that you have to get in order to qualify to take the exam. So you have to have all of these materials, and then you had all of these steps, 22 steps, to complete the application. And the application just says, I want to take the test. And now finally, don't forget all the things you're going to need to submit the application. Don't forget these things. And would you like to FedEx them and mail within 6 months? So you have to do this within a fixed time. It looks like there is no online way to upload or deliver this. So that would be something interesting that I would want to talk to stakeholders about. I want to learn if there's any particular reason that these documents cannot be scans or digital. Because we just saw that you have to mail or FedEx your documents, but, you know, in today's modern day, can they really not upload these documents? Do they have to be paper? Paper is so easy to get lost. Paper burns. And these people are going to have a hell of a time trying to reproduce things like a letter of recommendation from a former professor. If that paper gets lost, eaten by the dog, burns. So can these documents be scans or digital? I also want to learn from the internal team the process for reviewing submitted documents. That might include, and again, I don't know if they'll tell us this, but we can try, criteria for accepting or rejecting documents, criteria or methods for determining if the document is real. So I'll say authenticity. Can anybody think of anything else that we would like to learn from any of these groups? So for the future lawyers, where do they get stuck, or where's the process slowing them? Are they using the checklist? Because remember, this whole wacky website is just a bunch of checklists. Are they using it? Is it helping them? Who do they ask for help, or how do they get help if they get stuck with one of these? Is there some place that they've learned the checklist is wrong or misleading? Oh, it said I needed 3 of these, but it turned out I needed 4, and nobody's updated the website in 10 years. Also, some time frames or estimates on how long these steps take. That was something we noticed in the last episode was, you know, it says stuff like, you're going to need a copy of your military records. How long does it take to get that? We don't know. That's knowledge. Remember, if we're thinking about task analysis, which I know doesn't look good on this screen right now, but if we think about task analysis, one of the key things we're thinking about is knowledge. Do people have the knowledge of how to get these things? How long it'll take to get these things? What it costs to get these things? So that if we were designing, we would want to use knowledge design techniques and see where we can set people up for more success by helping them get this stuff. All right. And then the mentors, the advisors, hindsight-based recommendations. What advice would you give your past self? Any advice they're giving these future lawyers about the process of the application? Questions they get from people working on the application or preparation? Tools, knowledge, and workarounds that helped them. Anybody else think of any other? Now, these are not specific questions or tasks we'll ask someone for. These are just research goals. And again, the research goals act as our North Star when we are writing our questions and our tasks and doing the research and analyzing it to make sure these are the things we have to get the answers to. Otherwise, we might not have done this research very well. Sometimes on the Tuesday show, people will say to me, we did research and we want to learn that would help that Florida Bar website for either audience. Janice says, you're cutting out again. Ugh. This says it's going okay. View status. I don't know what that means. I do not know what that means. Well, anyway, the question is still hanging out there. Any other things that you think are goals? And again, we might think of more later, but I want to see if we can move on. Back now, but low quality video. That's fine. vMix is designed to sacrifice video when bandwidth is funky so that people still hear the audio. Any other goals? Anybody? For any of the audiences? Because if not, we'll start writing good questions. And then what we'll do next week is we will do some design. We'll pretend that we ran the research. We'll pretend that we know things. And we will do design. Excuse me, I've had this strange cough for way too long. All right, so if nobody's going to jump in and find any more goals for us, let's think about some questions or tasks we want to throw at people. So let's see. We know that for the diary study, we're going to ask people to please diary every time you are working on something related to bar exam prep or the online exam prep checklist. Sorry, everybody. Let's switch to menthol. Typically, you're asking them to detail the steps that they took and any tools or reference materials that they used. This might include, sometimes people in diary studies like to ask people what emotions they felt. Like, you know, write down what you're working on and how you felt about it. It really depends on whether or not the emotions are something that's going to help you later, satisfy your research goals, or go back to your design. So remember, meaningful, actionable, helpful. If it does not help your study to learn how someone felt about something, you don't have to ask them about it. If it helps your study in some way to learn that, that's fine. So I might say here, please detail anything that was positive, helpful, frustrating, confusing, etc. I might come up with other words when I take another pass at that. Remember, I take lots of passes at my research plan. I don't just write it once and go good enough. I tend to go back numerous times and sometimes have other people look at it. So don't be afraid to do that as well. So this just reminds people we're not just looking for the good news or the bad news. We really want all the news. You might even say neutral in there. Positive, helpful, neutral, frustrating, confusing, etc. So that's going to be your diary study thing. And we didn't talk about how they're going to do the diary study. All right. Should be back. diary study last time. Yeah, so it was nice to end up with some audio clips or some video clips from people, just to hear some of the emotion in their voice or hear them express themselves in their own way, instead of just the text and the quotes. But again, up to you what tools you use. Totally up to you. And whatever makes sense for the project. So what are some questions that we might ask the lawyers? For the pre-study interview, I wonder if they have a sense of how long this is going to take them. We did see on the page that they must do all of these things within 6 months, but I wonder if they imagine this is going to be faster or easier than they think it is. So maybe we'll ask them just to see how reality matches expectations. How long do you estimate that this process will take? Now, again, I can't necessarily design based on the answer to that, and maybe I'll take this question out later, but right now I feel a little bit curious about how long they think this will take versus how long it actually ends up taking. Can anybody else think of any other questions we would like to ask our future lawyers, either before they start preparing and getting all that documentation or after they've finished it? Because again, usually in a diary study, there's an interview before and an interview after. Let's hear it from you. Any questions that you think help us achieve these goals? Slowed in the process? Yeah. We could ask them to detail that. Detail any time that you spent waiting for information, documentation, or communication. Timeframes or estimates on how long steps take. Okay, so hopefully if we learn a little bit of that, we should be able to learn how long that took. Are they using the checklist? Okay, how long do you estimate this process will take? Are you using any checklist or cheat sheet to help with the application preparation? Because you know what? Maybe they're not even using the bar exams website. Maybe some wonderful person somewhere who's gone through this said, look, let me help you here. Over on my blog, I've put a much better checklist, and I've put links and I've put warnings and whatever. Maybe they say, yeah, I don't even look at the bar exams website. I'm looking at that person's website. Who knows? Shri says, what other websites, prep sources, do you refer to that? So that's a possible follow-up question. Let's see. Where the checklist is wrong or misleading. So those are some questions that we might ask before. And so I'm just going to color these. Oh, where's my color? So I'll just give these a bright blue color. Those will be our before questions, and then I'll use a different color for our after questions. Okay, so after, I can think of a lot of questions I'd probably want to ask them after this process. I'll put these in orange. Hopefully that'll be okay to read. What worked well for you? Now, that's a note. That question needs a little bit of improvement, but generally I want to try to learn throughout their process, was there something that worked well for them? They might say, oh yeah, I found this great website where all I have to do is put in my social security number and it sent me a third of the documents that I needed. Who knows? So what worked well for you? Where in the process did you see room for improvement? Usually I ask this type of question instead of what didn't you like or what went wrong, because that sometimes that has an emotional weight to it that I don't want to give. So instead, I try to ask more neutrally, how could this be improved? But it's hard to, usually I say, how could this be improved? But in this case, this is like a 5-month process. So I think it might be better to say, where in the process did you see room for improvement? I mean, y'all can see it on my screen there. Okay, what else could we ask? What advice would you give someone who is preparing to complete this application? So that tells us some things as well. What advice would you give someone else to help them do this better than they would without your advice? That should kind of sneakily also give us some clues as to where there's room for improvement here. So sometimes I do ask similar questions in different ways, sometimes from slightly different angles, so that we can get more information, more better information. Let me also stretch these out a little bit, so I think we're going to have more stuff. Can anybody think of anything else we would like to ask our future lawyers, either before or after they do the diary study? I think I'll also want them to keep track of what this cost them. So, for example, if trying to get old documents, very often when you get old documents, they might say, well, it's a $20 fee plus shipping. And so now you've spent $20. I wonder what all of this ends up costing people. That's knowledge they might not have, and it's knowledge we could give the future people. You know, I just thought of something else, only because I'm someone who has had to get documents before. I also know, and I don't know if this relates to law documents, but I know sometimes when you need documents and you need them fast, there's an extra fee for expediting the process. So please include, if you expedite any document requests, I can't spell today, requests, please keep track of your choice to expedite plus the costs. Anybody think of anything else? I'll throw in the magic wand question at the end, and then maybe we'll think about our questions for our other groups. We've got 20 minutes left to the stream, and then we're going to call it a stream, and next time we'll just do we'll pretend we learned all this and we'll do some design. All right. And if anybody thinks of anything else, please let me know. Looks like there's maybe 10 of you joining live. So I think now that it's getting nice out, everyone's just going to go outside. All right, let's take a look at what questions we might want to ask the mentors and the law professors, the people who are advising some of our future lawyers who are going through this terrible process. Maybe some of the same questions here. What worked well for you? Where in the process did you see room for improvement? Maybe start with some of these questions. Ew. Anybody have any other thoughts on what you would ask the people who successfully completed the process, or are law professors advising the people going through the process? Maybe what questions they get? What questions do you get from people who have not yet finished the process? So that could be people who haven't started it, people who are in the middle of it. Tools, knowledge, workarounds that helped. Most frequently asked questions they received. Yeah, I think we just said the same thing at the same time. What questions do you get from people who've not yet finished this process? And then we can dump these in. We don't have before and after. These are all just questions. So we could ask, did you use any website, reference material, checklist, or cheat sheet to help with the application preparation? How did you learn about that reference material? Okay. Maybe we press pause there and take a look at the next group. Though if you think of something for any groups, yell it out. Do people tend to quit or want to quit at a certain point? That's interesting. Like, would you actually give up on your dream to be a lawyer because the application process was too hard? Let's see. How would we ask that? Do you remember any points in the process when you wanted to quit? If yes, ask for that story. I guess we could add that to the end question here too. Were there any points in the process where you wanted to quit? Thanks, Janice. That's a nice one. All right, so let's take a look at the internal workers. So for questions before, sometimes I'm just getting to know what people's job is in this organization. So tell me about your role or your day-to-day work. Notice I didn't ask, tell me about your role and your day-to-day work, because that could be considered a double-barreled question, which is where we kind of ask two questions in one or two questions together. So tell me about your day-to-day work. related to bar exam applications. So then I might ask them if they do, if they have other work or responsibilities. Do you have other work or responsibilities outside of the bar exam applications? I'm wondering if these people are working 8 hours a day on these, or if they have to split their time and balance their time between some of this and some of that. Just, can I design for that? Not really, but I'm just curious how focused they are on their particular thing and how much they're doing it. So perhaps share your screen and show me how you evaluate documents you've received. Okay, hold on. Share your screen doesn't work because we just learned that they want paper. So this is going to have to be, hypothetically, this would be an in-person observational study. So that would mean you are sitting there with this person and you are looking at them working with their documents. So how can you tell a document is authentic? That was one question we had. How do you know people aren't sending in fake documents? What do you do? This would be a follow-up question. What do you do if you suspect a document isn't authentic? I don't know what they do. Do they reach out to the person who submitted it? Do they try to contact the person who it looks like the document is from? I don't know. I'd like to know more about their process. How do you decide to reject a document? I need to rewrite that question. It's not perfect, but I'm really shooting for what are the reasons a document might be rejected? Is it just authenticity? Is it something else? How do they know? What are they looking for? What else? How do you communicate progress to the applicant? How do you communicate problems or issues? Let's say issues or questions to the applicant. Can anybody think of anything else we wish we could learn from the internal workers that have to process these documents? I would probably also say, walk or talk me through your full process related to the documents that you tend to review. So for example, we don't know if there is an assembly line process where the person we're talking to always reviews just the military records, or we don't know if a person is assigned to a person and one person reviews all the documents the same person sent in from 6 months. So we want to hear a little bit about how work is divided and what their process looks like. Shri says, how do you or applicants expect the checklist to be ordered? Chronological? Because I don't think I understand that, because the checklist already exists. The checklist is ordered and organized, and I don't think I would ask the Florida worker how the end user wants something ordered. I would ask the end user these types of things, but I don't ask the end user these types of things because they don't know. They don't know how this should be ordered. Maybe that's an interesting question for the middle two sets of people. Did you learn that something had to be done in a certain order to be successful? I don't know, right? Maybe that's a thing. Maybe order matters. Well, I don't know. We don't know until we ask. So let's say, did you learn that certain tasks in the process had to happen in a certain order? Now, we can ask that, but we're probably also going to see that from the diary study, because someone might say, oh, I tried to get my military records, but they asked for my divorce records. Clearly, I have to get those first. So, yeah. Let's add that here. Color doesn't matter. So we have a few more minutes. And again, this is never going to be done. But you'll be able to see where a lot of this research plan goes, because we are guided by our goals. We're guided by things that could help a designer in knowing what to design or not to design. We're guided by things that will give us ideas about how people experience things, perceive things, prioritize things, understand things. So all of this information should help us in strategy, prioritization, design. Remember, you're not just researching for design. It's always best when you can research and then be able to use the outcomes and outputs of that to say, aha, this is our overarching UX strategy. Here's our priorities. Here's what we're working on. So with just a few minutes left, any other thoughts about our questions? And again, this isn't finished. I would be working on this for days, and I would be improving this list and collaborating with others to make sure I'm capturing all these things. I might be asking, I might do these in a different order. I might talk to some other stakeholders first and say, what do you want to learn from this project? What's your success criteria, which I think we talked about last week a little bit. So let me flip over and take a look at the show calendar. Remember, tomorrow is double office hours at both 10 a.m. Italy time and at 6:30 p.m. Italy time, when we should be joined by Seth Imbele. Hopefully he will be here. Wednesday, our show will be about service design, and Jan's going to join us for that. Thursday, I'm not going to really do the research. Apologies again for my bad internet connection. I'm so sorry that it's been so blippy and unreliable these last few days. I'm not too sure what's causing that. But hopefully Pier Mario got through to the technicians and can put in a trouble ticket with them. Maybe tomorrow I will try broadcasting from my other Wi-Fi network, though that one is sometimes a little slower, so the video might end up a little lower quality. Thanks for your patience here with episode 18. We will continue this next week with episode 19 of Think Out Loud. And of course, if you would like to subscribe, won't you please? We are shadow banned on YouTube, so I need all the help I can get in organic growth. So please let people know, especially those who are learning UX and improving, about the channel. If you'd like to send something in for future Think Out Loud series, once this one is done, please visit deltacx.com/links. That's got everything about the stream. And Shree says, no worries, Debbie. I wish by tomorrow internet issues are resolved. Me too. I even rebooted it right before the show thinking it will be fresh fresh internet, fresh, happy internet. And I was wrong. So again, we might try the other network tomorrow, see how it goes. Yeah, so that's it. So to be continued. Next week we will redesign something for the Florida bar, pretending that we learned a lot from all of our research. Of course, we'll be guessing, but in real life we should not be designing until all of the research comes back, all of it, and we understand the insights and pain points and unmet needs and information, and use that to inform our designs. Thank you, Janice. Sorry that it was so blippy. Y'all deserve better. But I live out in the country, so sometimes this is the internet. I mean, gosh, when we first started streaming, I think I had DSL. It was really slow. So I'm going to play us out of here. Everybody be well. Have a good rest of your day. For those of you joining the office hours, Ask Me Anything will be on twice tomorrow. So pick one or both. And of course, send those questions in. I already got a few. You can find where to ask questions for the Tuesday stream at deltacx.com/links. All right. I'm going to go reboot interwebs again just in case. Thanks, everybody. Be well. And I will catch you tomorrow morning, Italy time. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are